Today we are going to go through the process of reviewing, editing, and adding hours. To review hours worked, you can click on this icon or go to Student, then Edit Hours. This displays all students that we have access to view. If we have a large group of students, we can filter by putting in information in these fields, or we can click on any of the fields and the system will sort using that criteria in ascending or descending order by SUID number or first or last name. Double-click on the name of a student to display their hours for the current pay period. We can now see the dates they worked, their time in and out, total hours for the shift, and the total hours worked for the week. It is important to note that time worked with a missed punch does not calculate into the total hours worked until the missed punch is corrected. We can see if a student has approved their hours, if they have any missed punches, and if they have left any notes for us. The most frequent thing we will do with this screen is to simply review students' hours and make sure they are correct and they have not gone over the designated amount of hours for the week. When a student is actively taking classes, they cannot work more than 20 hours per week, and students are restricted to a max of 27.5 hours in a week if they are not taking classes. This is a total of all hours worked at every job. So if a student works 10 hours per week at one job, they can only work 10 hours per week at another job during weeks they are in class. You will be able to see all of the students' jobs, not just the job that pertains to your department. This allows you to make sure your student is not going over the total hours. You will not be able to approve or make changes to hours for jobs in other areas. Besides simply viewing the hours our students have worked, we can also add and edit their hours. To add hours, simply double-click on the student's name, then right-click in the space under where the hours are listed, and a selection box will appear. From this screen, we can choose the Add Segment option, when the Edit Segment box appears, we can enter or choose from the calendar which date we want to work with. We will then enter the time the student started working, choose the date the student left, and then enter in the time the student stopped working. If a student has more than one job, we should select the appropriate job code, the one that pertains to our department. The manager should enter a note stating the reason for the time change, Please note, rates entered in Time Clock Plus are not transferred to Banner. If you need to change a rate for a student, you should contact the payroll office. We can also use the Add Segment option to put them in a clocked in status if our student employee comes to us during a shift where they forgot to clock in. From the Add Segment option, we would enter the date and time they began working, select the correct job code, and then click on the individual's clocked in box at the top. This will allow them to clock out when they leave with no additional correction needed. Once we have finished filling out all of the criteria needed, we will click OK and see that the new time appears in the student screen. You may need to make them aware that the addition has been made so they can approve this entry. We can edit hours for a certain segment from the screen as well. On this screen, we can see that a student worked from 8:05 a.m. to 7:54 a.m. This is obviously a mistake. So we will click on the note the student left and see that they actually left at 4:30 but forgot to clock out. Click Close, Then right-click on the time segment we wish to edit, click Edit Segment, and then we will change the date and then the time that the student left. We can enter a note if we need to remind ourselves why we edited this segment, but it is not necessary. And hit OK. Be sure to review all notes prior to approving, even if the time does not show a mispunch. If a student clocks in under the wrong job code and you need to change their job code, but you do not have access to both job codes, you will need to contact the payroll office. If you need to go back and review a student's work history that is not within the current pay period that is displayed in the normal screen, we can scroll to the bottom and click on the History button. Choose which week we wish to view, and Time Clock Plus will bring up the week that we chose. It is important to note that you should never change time in work history. You should only view. This concludes how to view, edit, and add hours for student employees.